The Bell-Tainter Graphophone, so called because it was created by the talent and hard work of Alexander Graham Bell, Chichester Bell, Alexander's cousin, and Charles Sumner Tainter, who among others formed the American Graphophone Company in 1887. In 1893, the American Graphophone Company consolidated with the Columbia Phonograph Company. The Consolidated Columbia Phonograph Company's headquarters were in Washington, D.C. Also in 1893, the Columbia Phonograph Company introduced a line of graphophones, each model identified by a letter. They were constructed using A-frame topworks, recycled from treadle graphophones, but modernized by changing to Edison's 100 grooves per inch and adding a removable mandrel. Bell-Tainter graphophones were expensive, initially costing between $100 and $175. At the end of 1895, the Columbia Phonograph Company introduced the spring motor Columbia N. Its compact size, reliability, and most importantly, $40 price tag made it very appealing. In 1896, the Columbia Phonograph Company introduced the Columbia A. Eliminating the N gate and selling at $25, the Columbia A was in high demand. With the introduction of two successful, lower-priced models, it has been widely thought that production of Bell-Tainter graphophones ceased early in 1896. However, a Bell-Tainter graphophone has surfaced that proves that thinking inaccurate. How can we know for sure? On January 1, 1897, the Columbia Phonograph Company moved their executive offices from Washington, D.C. to New York. With this move, the announcement on Columbia cylinder records changed from
for the Columbia Phonograph Company of Washington, D.C.
to
Columbia Phonograph Company in New York City.
In addition, the address on the lower right corner of the banner decal on the front of Columbia cylinder graphophones changed from Washington, D.C. to New York, New York. Later, in 1897, a Paris office was opened, changing announcements on the cylinder records to
For Columbia Phonograph Company of New York and Paris.
As well, the address on the lower right corner of the banner decal changed to New York and Paris. Today, we will explore the 1897 Bell-Tainter U Graphophone. Introduced in 1894, the Bell-Tainter U Graphophone was advertised being powered by a 2.5-volt DC battery motor. The Bell-Tainter U cost $120. What is highly unusual with this specific Bell-Tainter U is the New York, New York address on the decal. Prior to this machine's discovery, Bell-Tainters were known to have been produced from the factory with no decal, a perfected decal, and a Washington, D.C. decal. Based on the decal alone, we can conclusively date this Bell-Tainter U to 1897, prior to the introduction of the Paris office. Opening the drop-down front door and pulling out the right, then left lid latches inside the motor compartment allows the lid to be removed. By pushing the lid latches back in, the drop-down front door can again be closed. The Bell-Tainter U retains the large treadle pulley ID as well as the more traditional ID tag on the phonograph's bed plate. The 2.5-volt DC electric motor was used on Bell-Tainter and Columbia graphophones from 1893 into the early 1900s. Two terminals allow the Bell-Tainter U to be attached to an external DC battery. The reproducer of the Bell-Tainter U is made of gutta percha, a form of early plastic. Though similar, it has a longer body than the Columbia Model N and Columbia Model A reproducers. This Bell-Tainter U has a transitional reproducer with a thin head. The Bell-Tainter U retains the treadle graphophone rocker arm that pauses cylinder rotation without stopping the rotation of the motor. The Bell-Tainter U Graphophone was marketed for both business for dictation and home use for pleasure and education. As this was a later machine, The Bell-Tainter U has a crooked end funnel horn for listening to cylinder records. This is the same horn as shown in this Columbia advertisement. Note the New York address. The Bell-Tainter U also had listening tubes for personal enjoyment of cylinder records. The Bell-Tainter U is also equipped with a speaking tube and recorder to record cylinder records. In addition to the 1897 decal, there are several interesting things to note on this Bell-Tainter U. The on-off switch and speed control are made of gutta percha. Gutta percha is an excellent insulator. However, 2.5 volt DC does not pose a shock risk. Bell-Tainter models with a 2.5 volt DC motor normally have controls made out of nickel-plated cast brass. Gutta percha controls are used on 110 volt DC machines to protect the owner from shock. However, 110 volt DC Bell-Tainter machines are direct wired and do not have terminals. The Bell-Tainter U was originally issued without a shaver. However, a shaver is present on this example. Finally, a seldom found original chip tray used to catch shavings from a cylinder is present on this Bell-Tainter U. This tray only works on electric models, as the speed control and on-off switch on spring motor models obstruct its placement. To place a cylinder on the Bell-Tainter U, the right side plunger is pulled outward and the entire mandrel removed from the machine. A cylinder is then placed on the mandrel, and the mandrel with the cylinder in place is returned to the Bell-Tainter U. Finally, the Bell-Tainter U, as with most Bell-Tainter machines, is equipped with thumb screws to secure a listening rail, 2 on the front left and right, and 1 in the center rear. Thank you for sharing this new discovery of an 1897 Bell-Tainter U with me. Keep watching my channel for more phonograph and music-related videos.